Good morning. I realize it's only the end of January, but being prepared for what's coming next is never something we stop thinking about. It is January, as I said, and I know that for our climate and our seasons, it's very early to start planting or considering planting or anything like that. But in the middle of winter, it's never out of season thinking of spring. Along those lines, what I'd like to start talking about a little bit is starting to prepare for what we've got coming for our raised bed gardens. Because of the soil we have to do everything with raised bed gardens in my specific location. Behind us, you can see there's a good mountain range. Um, this used to be a glacial field, and when it receded, glacier fields, as they move, they pick up boulders and rocks and they grind across other rocks and that kind of thing. And in the process, they kind of pulverized a lot of rock. Well, as that glacier receded, it leaves a lot of gravel and that kind of thing behind. In my specific area, we have a lot of fine gravels or really coarse sands and that kind of thing. And due to that, we have to do raised bed gardening. that being that being what it is, we have to ensure that we take care of the soils that we have and ensure that everything has got a good balance, pH balance, and that kind of thing. Um, so it's although it's January, it's not too early to start thinking about getting compost on the soil. Um, I'm not going to start right now. Probably within a couple of weeks here, I'll be getting compost. And how I'll start is I'll dump that soil. I'll just dump that compost on top of the raised bed, spread it out towards a good even layer, and I'll let some of that leach into the raised beds. Um, as it snows, you'll get moisture on top, and gradually it'll leach into the soil below. As we get closer to planting, what I'll do is I'll turn that compost into the soil and get it distributed real well within the raised beds themselves. So, as I was saying, it's never too early to start thinking about what we have coming next. So it's never too early to start thinking about what's coming next. For example, calving season. Again, it's not even February yet, but we're going to be calving very soon. And we can't get complacent and just let time slip by. Oh, we'll get this later, we'll get it later. Because sure enough, the next thing you know, it's April, and oh, you've got your first calves on the ground. Do you have everything you need? Do you have the stuff to pull a calf if you need to pull a calf? Do you have medications ready, vitamin B, colostrum, different things like that? So even though it is January, I need to start getting ready for March and April, May. Similarly for the raised beds, I know I was talking about the raised beds to begin with. Many of the places that I purchase seeds or things like that, I have to purchase now. Otherwise, come March, come April, they'll be sold out of those things. For example, the strawberries, I get those that are they're a small rooted plant basically, and I'm going to replant them and let them take over another one of the raised beds. So I have to order those now, otherwise they'll be sold out in March. What I'll do is I'll order them, and they won't ship until March, April, somewhere in that time frame. As soon as I get them and it starts to warm up, then I need to get out and get them planted so that they can take off as soon as it does start warming up. So as I was saying, if you want to order things like bees, we've got one colony of bees, one hive. We plan on extending that out and going with 2 hives or possibly 3. But if you plan on getting bees, or if you intend on getting bees this year in particular, you really need to be on whatever website, or what you need to call whichever company you're going through. Find out if they've got more bees, the bees that you want, and you need to order those now. Similarly, make sure you get a queen and the equipment that you need and that kind of thing, because they'll sell out really early. You won't be able to just order bees in May. Everybody will be sold out, and you won't have access to them. Similarly, when I order strawberries, for example, I don't go with seed on those. I get really small rooted plants, and I need to order those now, otherwise they'll be sold out. What I'll do is I'll order now. They'll ship in the spring, probably March, April time frame, depending on my time zone. Pardon me, depending on my climate zone. We're in 5A, I believe, something like that, 5B. I always try to get things that are like a 3 or a 4 for growing zone, just to ensure that everything I have or everything that I grow is going to make it. Um, Most of the time we don't get quite as cold as those zones, but in the off chance that we do get a good stretch of a week or 2 weeks of 30 below zero, I'm not concerned about the weather freezing and killing everything I've got. Um, so additionally, last year at the end of the season, I had to go back to work, which is very common. We all have to work. But when I work away from home. I'm gone anywhere from 1 to 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time. When I got back, I had a good amount of green beans that were still on the vine. But what happens is they got over mature, meaning they got overly large. And in the process, what happens, they get stringy and kind of tough to cook. So I decided to leave them on the vine, let them dry on the vine. And now I need to start gathering those. They've dried out here. Um, it looks like there may be a little moisture on them. I mean, may let them go another week or two, but I need to gather all those, get prepared for planting, because green beans are one of the first things that get planted. As soon as we start getting warm temperatures, you need to plant those. They don't get planted in the house as like a pre-plant, or tomatoes, things like that. They are a direct sow and they get planted directly in the soil. So I need to be prepared for that as the time comes. Additionally, I want to get compost on all of my raised beds. Again, I'll show you the soil I've got here in just a moment. But I need to get compost on my raised beds to kind of re-energize my soils. So what I'll do is I'll get good compost and I'll spread it evenly over the top of the over the raised beds. And we'll have some good wet snows between now and the time it's time to plant. And with those wet snows, it'll kind of leach some of the nutrients from the compost down into the soil. And then as I get closer to, or right before I start planting, within a week or so, what I'll do is I'll till and turn that compost into the soil so that it gets well distributed. And at that point, I'll be pretty much ready to plant. There will be things that I start on the inside in the house. Tomatoes, of course. We really struggle with tomatoes here unless we start them in the house. Peppers, things like that, I'll start in the house. But let me show you what I have for soil. And from there, you'll understand at least why I have to do the raised bed gardening and why I'm starting to prepare. This is just a sample of what we've got out there. You can see a lot of it is just pulverized rocks, that kind of thing. And it does come down to some finer sands and that kind of thing. Nonetheless, you're just not going to have much nutrients. There's not a lot of good nutrient source in there, especially with all the gravel and that kind of thing. And you can see that's a pretty common thing we have. The other thing that we have, if we don't have really rocky stuff, then we have this clay-like material, and it doesn't have much for nutrients either, but it holds water a little better. So what I've done is, so with that soil, what I've done is I started in the raised bed garden with some straw. My wife uses pine shavings in all of the duck nesting and those type of areas. So we will put that stuff off to the side, the shavings and stuff. When she's done with those, when she goes to clean everything out, we've got those shavings off to the side. So in the bottom of my raised bed gardens, what I'll do is I'll put some old log type material in the base, and then what I'll do is I'll put that pine shaving in there, the used pine shaving, in above that as well. So both the old logs and the pine shavings can continue to break down, and they're a natural fertilizer along with the manure and that kind of thing from the ducks. From there, what I've done is I've put in some of the soil that I've got from the ground right here. We've also got some amended topsoil that we use for our trees. I've used that amended topsoil and this and blended it, and I've filled up to about 4 inches from the top into the raised beds. Then on top of that, like I said, I'll put compost on top, and I'll turn that in right before I plant. We also save all of the vegetables that we don't use, whether that be like corn husks or whatever, things that we haven't used, and we compost all of that as well. So I'll make sure that that gets blended into everything I've got as well. So with that, I will start preparing here very soon. I came out actually to gather the green beans today, but I may or may not do that today. I'm going to take a look at them and make sure everything's dry and go from there. But what I am going to do is some of like the older stuff I can take out and get rid of things that stakes and different things like that that I use to kind of indicate what is growing where. So I'll do those things now in preparation for what's coming in March and April and that kind of thing. When you're starting a homestead, or when you have livestock, if you have livestock, or if you live in the country, or if you just want to get back to growing fruits and vegetables, canning, and trying to be more self-sufficient, you have to always be thinking about what's coming next. I'll use the strawberries as an example. They're one of the first things, they and asparagus, are one of the first things that are going to be coming back come spring. And about June, they're going to be ready to pick all those. So I need to make sure that I've got all the cans, the jars, ready for those. When I harvest all the strawberries, I'll make strawberry preserves. So I need to make sure I've got all the jars and lids and everything ready that I'm going to need when the time comes. Because typically you don't find a lot of canning or jars, but canning materials in the first part of the year, in the spring. Most of the time when you look for those things, it'll be fall and that kind of thing, because that's when most of your vegetables are ready to be canned and preserved. Asparagus, I'll be ready to preserve some of that early as well. It's one of the first things back up in the spring, and that's part of the reason we planted so much, is because we're looking forward to having a nice fresh vegetable again. You know, April, depending on the weather, it could be April or early May, and we're going to have fresh asparagus, and those strawberries will be coming back again. So it's just things like that that I wanted to indicate and point out. I was going to come out here and do this anyhow, so I just thought I'd make a video on when you're starting a homestead, or when you're working a homestead, or if you just have livestock, or just a vegetable garden. You're always thinking about what's coming next. What process is going to be next? What do I need to be preparing for? As I mentioned the calves earlier, the calving season, like I said, we've got to have colostrum ready. We can't, oh geez, we got a calf on the ground and we need colostrum, and now we're gonna have to run to town, and it's just not feasible to do that. We need to make sure we have what's necessary when the time comes in advance. I hope this was helpful. It was something that I was thinking about, and it's just the next step that I need to start preparing for. So I'll be heading for work. I've got a couple of videos that'll be coming out that I've already got prepared, but I'll be heading to work. I'll be gone about 10 days, and I should, when I get back, we'll get started back on the regular scene. Hopefully things start warming up a little bit here, and we can get rid of the ice and stop having to break ice in the troughs and that kind of thing. I'd like to get the calves back out in the pasture, the ones we're going to keep here. We're going to keep all the steers, obviously. I'll leave the bull calves in the corrals. I'll move the bull into the corrals, and that way we can isolate them, keep them away from all of the young heifers and that kind of thing. We shoot for a very specific time frame for when we're trying to breed and that kind of thing. So we'll keep all the bulls together until it gets closer to the time that we want to start considering breeding. Anyway, I'll finish here. I appreciate you watching. I hope you're thinking about what's coming next. Anybody in the northern states, we're pretty much over winter by this time of year. We're ready for some warmth, and looking forward to spring. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.